A year ago, I stood outside this theatre holding this sign. People took photographs of it, but no one talked. A year ago, motherhood wasn't on our agenda. Today, I'm here, representing 350 feminist female theatre practitioners across Ireland who make up MAM, Mothers, Artists, Makers. Inspired by Waking the Feminists, we are uniting to highlight issues of domestic isolation, marginalisation, and the disproportionate impact of parenting on the salaries of mothers who work in theatre. MAM surveyed average 4.5 years third-level training and 16 years paid practice each. After having children, over half our members surveyed lost all their income from theatre. 95% of the rest suffered reduced incomes, and this makes theatre unsustainable for MAMs. Fringe Lab, the Abbey, Project, the Lyric, Fishamble, Smock Alley, O'Reilly Theatre, Barbaro. By hosting our workshops, you make us visible again. 54% of Irish women are mothers. MAM believes the major cause of gender imbalance in theatre is the exodus of women when they have children. And this isn't mother theatre ensuring survival of her fittest. This is the loss of some of our brightest and our best due to the unequal care burden on women. The one thing that is most unresolved in feminism today: motherhood. A year ago, I asked you to remember us. Today, we're here. Mothers, artists, makers.
I'll just hold it. I'll hold it and do it myself. Yes, I know how to do it. If I self-tape for auditions, I can. Not that I audition. I don't audition. Just hold the sign up. Hi, happy birthday to everyone at Waking the Feminists. Okay, I know. Don't judge me. Happy birthday to everyone at Waking the Feminist. Is it one feminist or should it be feminist? Is it plural? Happy birthday to everyone at Waking the Feminists. That felt too serious. I think it needs to be a bit more joyful. Happy birthday to everyone at Waking the Feminists. That felt more kind of too American for Ireland, too positive or something. What exactly is it for again? Remind me. It's a celebration of an attempt for women to be treated the same as men. No, seriously, is that still that's still a thing?
Oh, hello. Nice. Hi, I'm Alison Spittle. I'm a stand-up comedian and woman, therefore the sole representative of whether my gender is funny or not. When I first started comedy, I'd get compliments such as, I don't like female comedians, but you're funny. And I'd lap that up like creme catalina. Creme catalina is a Spanish custard and it's amazing, lads. It's really good. It's really good. Comedians live for compliments. But then I just realised that compliments are just like custard and misogyny is a bit like shite. Yes, it's still a bowl of custard, but there's flecks of shit in it, and I don't want to eat it anymore. Every interview they'd ask me, is comedy sexist? Short answer, yes. Long answer, the world is sexist. And if we were worried about bumping into sexism, sure, we'd never leave the kitchen. Am I right, ladies? The kitchen, it never gets old. Oh. Now, I love stand-up comedy. Comedy, you have full control on what the audience see. But it can be lonely. And to be honest with you, if a woman got a sweet support slot or a TV job, sometimes I'd cheer for them. But to be honest with you, sometimes I'd cry. I'd eat toast and I'd pretend that she gave me a dirty look the last time I saw her to justify my feelings about it. That's very true. I saw women as rivals. Sure, there's only one place for a woman on that panel show. There's only one slot on that night for a woman. And there's only one unfunny girlfriend role in that shit sketch. Yes, it's true. It's true. It's toxic and it's exhausting. And this summer, buoyed by the success of the Waking the Feminists people over here, us comedians held our own meeting to encourage more women into comedy. The event was called Women Who Want to Do Comedy Meetup. Snappy name, you'd admit, yeah? Which it abbreviates as WWWTDCMU. Which is not as good as WTF, but we're trying. And the turnout was class. The amount of support offered was staggering. Not just emotional support for women, practical support, such as cameras, script editing advice, and most of all, encouragement, right? And I realised that even though comedy is a lonely job, we are a community. And without community, we are nothing. And since then, I've seen a lot more speaking out, especially in social media. Festivals and comedy nights now get asked, where are the women? And I'll tell you where we are. We're here, we're mobilised, and we're not putting up with the same old shite again. Woo!
Happy first birthday, Waking the Feminists, and what a year it's been. And thank you so much for the opportunity to attend today and speak on behalf of the Abbey Theater as we continue this very important national conversation. The board of the Abbey Theater set up a gender equality committee which comprised of Dee Kinahan, Niamh Lunny, Mark Ryan and I, and we're all here today. Our remit was to develop a comprehensive gender equality policy following engagement with a wide variety of stakeholders. And since I spoke with you last on the 8th of March, I'm delighted to be able to say that the Board of the Abbey has announced our 8 guiding principles for gender equality in August 2016. And we are now well on the way to implementation, and all in under a year. This has happened as a direct result of Waking the Feminists. The Abbey Theater wants to continue to play a role in gender equality conversation, but we want to move that conversation on, not just to talk about writers, but to talk about all key roles in theatre: directors, producers, performers, designers, costume, lighting, and so on. And that is our focus and priority. For me personally, for someone without a background in theatre or in the arts, a blow-in really, this has been an incredible 15 months since I joined the board of the Abbey Theater. And I feel privileged, really privileged, to be involved in driving change that's important and of national significance. So thank you for that opportunity.
My grandparents were Hannah and Francis They were ardent feminists, nationalists, socialists, and pacifists. They never shied away from speaking out for justice and showed no fear in the face of adversity. They didn't care if they were unpopular, but always took the side of justice. In 2016, of all years, it is important to remember their lives and what they stood for. In 2009, inspired by them and seeking justice for women in NUI Galway, I took a gender equality case to the Equality Tribunal and won. The university promotion scheme had gone too long unchallenged, and it was about a wider justice, not just about me. The system was corrupt. Only one woman, or 6.7% of the female candidates, was promoted. 6.7%, compared to 50% of the male candidates. 5 other women, along with me, were deemed suitable, but were not promoted. The only recourse now left to them to get justice is the High Court. During my case, I exposed some of the dealings in that promotion round. But I know there is more that will come out. So, the university indulges in prevarication, misinformation, and delaying tactics to avoid such an event. Justice must be pursued. One thing that is needed is to promote the 5 women now.
As a business leader in the technology sector, as the daughter of a mother who worked throughout her career, and as a mother myself of a 3-year-old girl with another baby on the way soon, I am highly attuned to the perceptions, realities, and attitudes towards women in society. Specifically, day to day, my views are informed by how women are treated in the commercial world. The past year for me has been about an awakening of the feminists, specifically my male friends and colleagues. And in that respect, I feel lucky to work at a progressive company such as Dell EMC. As a company, we actively promote and support diversity of gender, of sexual orientation, of ethnicity. I believe that men need to be not only involved, but actively engaged in the discussions if we are to have real change. It's about changing mindsets, and as a result, more women have been promoted and recruited to senior roles in the last year than in previous years. The MARC programme, Men Advocating Real Change, is about opening minds to every lens of diversity, including gender. A subsequent survey showed that 82% of participants felt that they had changed how they think and behave, demonstrating an awareness and sensitivity to unconscious bias and to privilege. More significantly, over 2/3 had noted a change in their leaders' behaviour, being more open to diverse perspectives. It has given us a language for open discussions about unconscious bias in recruitment, in team building, and beyond. It's been a great year, and there's a lot more to come. I'm looking forward to the year ahead, including the arrival of my next feminist, be they a girl or a boy.
Hello Dublin and all my friends at Waking the Feminists. I'm really sorry I'm not there with you. I tried and it nearly happened, but it just wasn't possible this time. I'm reeling. It's the day after the US elections and months after Brexit and a short month after what's happened here at the Globe. So I don't know whether I've got much wisdom to impart to you, except I woke up this morning thinking it's all about power. If we have no power, then we can't enforce change. And I'm not talking about the big jobs. I think you need to get involved. Not you, we need to get involved with our school boards, with the boards of theatre associations, with arts centres. We need to make our presence felt at every level. And in many ways, without power, all of these conversations are useless. So to use the old phrase, we need to lean in and step up and make sure that boards and governing bodies represent us and everything we believe in. But that's all I got today, except a lot of tears and an awful lot of sadness. But there's only one way to go, and that's up.
This is the first time that, like many of you, I am able, supported, and allowed to give an address from behind the podium. Usually, I stand in front and they ask, "Do you mind?" I do, but I never say. Thank you to Waking the Feminists for such a wonderful welcome and for making me feel equal today. The 9th of November is an historic date. In 1989, it marked the fall of the Berlin Wall. Horst Kohler, President of Germany from 2004 to 2010, stated that the wall was an edifice of fear. On November 9th, it was a place of joy. In 1990, Mary Robinson was inaugurated as the first female president of the Republic of Ireland. In her inauguration speech, she said that there was nothing rational or reasonable about the campaign which developed into a barnstorming, no-holds-barred battle between my ad hoc assembly of political activists, amateurs, idealists, and romantic realists against the might, money, and merciless onslaught of the greatest political party on this island. Yet, as she says herself, we beat them. In 2016, we didn't beat them. The 9th of November made explicit the sexism, racism, sexualism, classism, and ableism that permeates our society. I woke at 6 a.m., wishing I could return to my earlier consciousness. Yet, I was awake. I am awake. As we celebrate the anniversary of Waking the Feminists, I'm inspired by the importance placed on female relationships. This solidarity, supportive and sincere empathy for other women is the one thing more I wish to explore. I want to take conversations offline, exit the echo chamber and the online performance of happiness. I want my one thing more to not be limited to women who look like me, but to be authentically welcoming to those who are of different race, religious belief, sexuality, gender, ability, and class. On the 9th of November 1990, Mary Robinson said that she was elected by the women of Ireland, Mná na hÉireann, who instead of rocking the cradle, rocked the system. I'm with her, I'm with them, I'm with you. Gur míle magadh.
What one thing do I know now that I didn't know a year ago? What one thing from Waking the Feminists has impacted on me? Is it in fact possible to whittle it down to just one thing? Is it not a culmination of things, of voices heard, of stories told, of egos set aside, of petitions signed, awards given, surveys conducted, research presented, of widespread media coverage, of departmental ears opening, of funding agencies sitting up at last, and of the cacophony of pennies dropping in boardrooms and places of decision-making all over the country? Is it not a culmination of all these things seen, heard, and done that has led us to the one thing, which is this, that it is possible to make change happen? That we actually live in a country where people do care. When push comes to shove, people, women and men, will do something about equality, about marriage equality, about gender equality, about equal opportunity for all, and that we live in a country where, if we care enough, we can change things, but that it must be done by a movement of people, people who set aside their own differences and disagreements for the common goal of equality and fairness. And in doing so, we come to learn about ourselves, who each of us is, and what we really believe. And one thing in particular, which is that to do nothing is simply not an option. What one thing do I know now? I know myself better than I did a year ago. I know that as a feminist for over 40 years, I had perhaps dozed off a little in my middle age. But now I can say that I am again absolutely awake, that I will ensure that I stay awake, and that I will take responsibility to wake everybody else at any given opportunity, both in my professional life and in my personal life. Thank you.
My name is Amelie Metcalfe. I am 8 years old. I am proud to be a girl working in Irish theatre. Soon I will be Masha in Anna Karenina here on this stage. Last week I was Freya in A Feast of Bones with Theatre Lovett. That play was designed by a woman and lit by a woman and propped by a woman and costumed by a woman and stage managed by a woman, produced by a woman and directed by a woman and written by a woman. And that's how I know women can make great theatre. I am glad that, thanks to you, women are being listened to here in this theatre, all over Ireland and in many other countries too. But there is one big but. I am, as you see, not just female, but a child. And I'd like to ask you all the question, when is Irish theatre going to wake up to children? Young people, like me, need good theatre just as much as adults do. Excite us. Inspire us. Reflect our lives. Don't we deserve our space here too? Gur Mahagwith.
Speaking to you from the ladies' toilet at the King's Cross Theatre, where the Dunne trilogy has been going on, the Shakespeare trilogy, all female, Wonder Women all, warriors of political theatre, changing the world. That's what we hope. And actually it's happening, because theatre isn't just a reflection of society, and God knows it hasn't been reflecting female society very well over the centuries. It's a mover and a shaker that provides an example and a way forward and an inspiration and creates an ideal that we can attain. So nobody's questioning us now. When we first started, there was a little bit of a why should they? And now, 4 years down the line, there's what's the problem? And more than what's the problem, aren't they doing it better? Because we've got so much commitment and so much we don't take for granted in the pleasure of doing these plays and the pleasure of changing a little piece of the world. And the thing about change is that in the past, we didn't invent women doing Shakespeare. They've been doing it since Shakespeare was, 100 years after Shakespeare. And women have always, there's often been women playing men in the theatre. and women making breakthroughs in all sorts of areas in history. But it's not recorded because the males write the history books. But now the record is open to all of us on Facebook, on social media. So everyone's getting the buzz and everyone's knowing what everyone else is doing and seeing that it can happen and seeing that it's inspirational. And the glass ceiling may not have been reached, but as Hillary Clinton said, you recoil only to spring further next time. You don't give up. But there's a gathering of a head now. It's not isolated moments in history that have just been written off. Oh, we've done feminist theatre. This is, or we've had a female president, or we haven't yet, but you know, we've had a female prime minister. We're now having not just one Shakespeare play, we did 2, then they said, when's the next one? We're now doing 3. We're hearing about other people, there's Glenda Jackson doing King Lear. It's happening all over the place now. And that's just in the area of women playing men in Shakespeare. But it's a symbolic change that's reverberating in lots of other areas of life. And we've got to get the fact that women are half the population reflected in every area of our life, backstage, on stage, in the street. And that's going to happen because even just with a little thing like ours, we're putting up a little mirror to the world of how these jobs can be done by anyone. And that shouldn't sound so strange. And it's beginning to not sound strange. So 1 year down the line, congratulations to you. I'm going to hand you over to Clare Dunne, who is my wife, my son. What else do you play? My enemy. Yeah, in Shakespeare's plays. So here's Clare.
Okay. Hiya, I'm just going to be the butt end of this. And that is my idol speaking right there. And who knew that I was going to be here after working with for 4 years on an all-female Shakespeare production. And right now I feel like I'm in this culmination of a moment in my life and in my career, and with this project in particular. And it feels incredible because it's like it's done. It's already done. I stand up in rehearsals and I play a guy who's going to be king. I stand there and I play Prince Hal, and it doesn't feel unnatural. I feel like a human playing another human that suits my talent, my ability, and myself physically as an actor. And it just feels like that's my job, that's my place. I deserve that. And I think that's something that I've probably only learned from the experience of this. 4 years ago, I was so scared about all of this. And now it just feels like, no, we just deserve it. It's just space. And just take it up. Because the one thing that we've learned playing men is that men take up space very easily. And women are afraid of doing that. But I think you can take that on many levels. Don't be afraid to take up the space that we already own and we already deserve. We've started the journey now. Let's just like have the crack and keep going. Good luck, lads. Have a good party today. Bye.
The one thing which has changed most significantly for Druid since the arrival of Waking the Feminist movement is awareness. It is not about getting some quick wins. It is about ensuring that where necessary there is a change in approach and in mindset. At Druid, we now put awareness into all of our decisions, always looking at a bigger picture that strives for a more equally representative organisation. This must be apparent at all levels, from script reading to production, from casting to development initiatives. Waking the Feminists was a shock to the system of theatre. It was a very welcome and a very much needed shock. Like any shock, it impacts on our sense of security and indeed on our complacency. And it is perhaps inevitable that we all develop a degree of complacency, and it is important that it is challenged both internally within the organisation at all levels and from external stakeholders. We should acknowledge that any shock is likely to rock our established way of doing things, and at Druid we have welcomed that. When a body suffers a shock, it usually has one reaction, either an automatic or reflexive reaction. It'll be one of mobilisation or immobilisation. I don't think there's any theatre body that can have the luxury of being immobilised by a shock. we have to be mobilised, we have to respond. There is a choice of activities in responding, depending on the genuine commitment of the organisation to respond to the shock. Our response is focused on the change of behaviour and mindset at all levels, starting with the board, which I represent today. It starts with awareness and it leads to action. We believe that the critical measure is to ensure that the awareness leads to real and sustainable change. It must last. This will take time, but it must and it will happen. Thank you.
Hi. I have new glasses. I look real smart. It's one thing to notice something's amiss, but it's quite another one thing to do something about it. Misogyny and homophobia are not the same thing, but they are fed from the same well. I stand before you as a person who draws strength from femininity, because it is in my femininity that I find the qualities that I need to survive, strength and perseverance. And there's a certain exquisite irony in that, because it's often the negative reaction to my perceived femininity that I'm trying to bloody survive in the first place. Recently, spurred on by this movement and Hillary Clinton's campaign, I took a psychological test developed by Harvard researchers. It aims to determine if you are biased against women leaders. It's very thorough. You answer a slew of questions, and then they test your reaction time as you categorize a myriad words as being associated with either leaders or followers. At the end of the test, I hovered trepidatiously over the result button. Coming from a family where the women are the organizers and the doers, I wanted my result to be unbiased, but in a world of tie-wearing leaders, could I possibly have escaped the subconscious conditioning? I closed my eyes, thought of Angela Merkel, and pressed the button. I had, Harvard told me, a slight bias in favor of women leaders. So I resolved to do better. I want a strong bias. The next day, I was at a meeting. There were 3 men, a woman, and a gender discombobulist. At one point, the woman started to speak, but before she had even half a sentence out, one of the men started to speak loudly over her. He wasn't even aware that he was doing it. A couple of minutes later, she tried again, and the same thing happened, one of the other men. It took 4 attempts for her to get to say what she had to say, but the men weren't really listening anyway. They were just waiting to speak. She was keenly aware, and I, fresh from my Harvard test, was keenly aware, to my shame, for the very first time. I was woke, and I resolved to do one more thing: stay woke.
A century ago, the Easter Rising sparked conflagration. In its centenary, the gender imbalance of the artistic programme of our National Theatre lit a fire, not just of agitation, but a flame to cast light and give support for women in theatre and in the arts to make a difference. It is a perpetual flame. The fire will not go out. It is vindication of Augusta Gregory. It beckons as a beacon from this stage across a bridge named after a once nearly forgotten woman, Rosie Hackett. Women's lives will not be hidden histories. It is not for women to do the trudging in life and be expected to be grateful. Irish women are writers, actors, directors, activists, and leaders. Our imagination is both epiphany and conscience for our country. Raising the drawbridge behind them was too often the obituary for Irish rebellion by those who led it. Breaching the walls is not enough. Cultural change is never easy or accomplished at once. Opportunity for women is not the full achievement of diversity, but it is its best hope. Gender is essential to equality, but not a simple summary. We must constantly demand equality. We must constantly interrogate ourselves and the systems around us to ensure equality in life, in the arts and in theatre. and that is why the Arts Council has supported the Waking the Feminists baseline research that we will hear about later. But there are communities across this country for whom art, theatre and all art forms are unknown spaces. There are people who live lives bereft of the arts. The arts offer meaning. Art is light, art is catharsis, art in its absence is exclusion. Waking the Feminists is a beginning, not an end. One thing more is the end of that beginning. Now for the great work ahead, a republic of an audience of equals, where art is inalienable from citizenship. Thank you.
I'm honored to read this from Susan Feldman today. Wish I could be there with you all, but somehow I ingested something toxic the day after our election that has knocked me back. The doctor says it was something I ate. I say it was something much worse I and countless millions around the world had to swallow. America has chosen a dangerous throwback to misogyny and dominance, and I fear there will be great suffering. It's unthinkable, after a lifetime in the women's movement, celebrating the rise of feminism and the attainment of the basic right to control our bodies, ourselves, that we should again be in the hands of others who would malign our dignity and deny nurturing to our people and our planet. Waking the Feminists as a movement for survival and change means more than ever. Huge numbers of women elected our new president. How could that happen? Clearly, there is major work to be done as our grief turns to anger and resolve. As artists and producers, we have voices and platforms with which we can unleash potent creativity and laser-sharp activism. To do this in solidarity with you and all those who celebrate their woman within, I pledge my resolve. We need to wake up and stay awake, which means propelling a worldwide movement that allows us to rest and refresh during what's sure to be a marathon and not a sprint. I love you all.
I've just arrived on an airplane from the new Trump world. I haven't slept for days. I feel like we've been in triage. Women have been camped out at my house, crying, weeping, organizing. Mass demonstrations for 5 days, which is kind of amazing, and a sign of possibly the future, against a racist, bigot, earth-hating sexual predator. As David LaChapelle said the other night, America has essentially elected an internet troll. I cannot tell you how happy I am to be in this historic theater, occupied by women, rising for equality. I really want to congratulate you on this amazing achievement over 1 year. It is truly astounding, and I know from women in New York and women in London and women all over, you are inspiring women everywhere to rise for equality. So the deepest congratulations. I think what you've shown us is that when women are united, anything is possible. Now more than ever, the voices of women, the voices of the marginalized must be platformed, honored, and heard. Theater is the place for transmitting ideas from the body, into the body, beyond the body, for fermenting revolution, for resisting tyranny and fascism. In the face of this rising authoritarian backlash, which we're seeing all around the world, and the nativism, this time of collapsing and unsustainable neoliberal capitalism, which is an engine of hate against women, Muslims, people of color, refugees, immigrants, and LGBTQ. This is the time for us, women, to write and perform and shake up the world. Women must be speaking out on reproductive rights, on sexual violence, on gender liberation, on friendship, on protecting our Mother Earth. We must use our voices to catalyze an imaginal energy that is bringing in an desperately needed new time. I have to say, this is an extraordinary beginning for Waking the Feminists, but I just want to share a little bit of experience because I've been at this a really long time. And having been a feminist for 40 years and having just experienced what we've just gone through in America, that a blatant misogynist and sexual predator has been elected to the highest office, I can tell you that patriarchy is stubborn and an insidious virus. And without constant attention, advocacy, educating, deep discourse, reaching over class and racial and gender divides, disruption and pushing, celebrating, it is frighteningly easy to slip back. So keep going, keep fighting. You've gotten the window open, now you've got to push your whole body through so it never closes again. May your awakening awake and inspire women in the theater and every sector in this country, and may inspire all of us around the world to wake the feminist. Thank you so much.
I thought I knew what I was going to say today, and then I woke up on Wednesday morning. So in a week where it might seem that hate and division has won out, as we witness a man who boasts of his misogyny and his sexual assaults of women elected President of the United States, a week where those who practice what he preaches feel emboldened to give not just voice to their hate, but violent action too, I have resolved to do this one thing. I have resolved to love more, to love passionately, relentlessly, purposefully. I have resolved not to give in to an invitation to division and to deeper hate. I have resolved to work to expose the cynical manipulation of desperate social need, most manifest in gross inequality in all of its forms, by its very creators and its main beneficiaries, as they seek to foster hate and division in an effort to grab and hold more and more power. I have resolved to listen with care and attention to those with whom I passionately disagree, and then to make my case. I have resolved to work every day to prove that love can trump hate. That real unity is not about unifying sections of society in opposition to others, but about uniting all in the recognition that together we are always better. I will not give in to hate. I will love. Not a quiet or passive kind of love, but a love that is powerful and angry when it needs be. I will not be intimidated or shamed or silenced, nor will I stand by and witness others being shamed, intimidated, or silenced. I will stand alongside women as we work to secure true equality in this and every society. I will work to repeal the eighth with even greater passion and determination. I will stand with refugees, with travellers, with people with disabilities, with all marginalised groups, because any one or group of us are only marginalised when the rest of society allows us to be.
It means the world to me to be here with you today. It's especially meaningful to be sharing the stage with my mother, Marie, who started me on feminism around the same time she started me on solids. 6 days ago in New York, I held a ballot in my hands with a woman's name on it as a presidential candidate. In the difficult, painful days since, I've thought about the work in front of us, and Maya Angelou's words are on repeat in my head. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. In 1 year, we have risen so high. Last November, we gathered and gave personal testimony to the pain gender bias has caused us. We told our difficult, messy stories together. We demanded representation in our theatres and in our society. We became a community, connected, strong, bound to the belief that inequality has no place in our world. When Ealaíon asked me last year if she could make public my comments about female representation in theatre, I responded respectfully, Sure, why not? What are they going to do, not produce my plays? This holds true for me even more so now because in the past year I have learned that it is more important that I am truthful than I am produced. I have learned that it is more important to be yourself than to change your artistry to suit industry trends. I've learned that it's more important to speak up than to listen to the social message that I should be small, wait my turn, and know my place. This is my place. Go where you are loved. And if you can't find that place, gather your people and make your own. And remember, I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr Brenda Donohue. I'm Dr Ciara O'Dowd.
And I'm Dr Tanya Dean.
Over the past number of months, we, along with a team of volunteer researchers, have conducted a study on gender balance in Irish theatre. Today, we are able to report on that work, giving a set of provisional figures. These data give an initial impression of what we have discovered about the industry that you work in. Firstly, we want to point out that the research project was a huge undertaking, and we could not have done it alone. We would like to thank all of those involved, some of whom are listed here. Particular thanks go to our research assistants, Ciara Murphy, Kate Harris, who I know is here this evening, and Kathleen Cawley.
Why did we decide to do this? After the first meeting, there was plenty of anecdotal evidence that there was a gender imbalance in the sector, but little data available. Waking the Feminist is looking for evidence-based solutions to address gender inequality in Irish theatre, and this study aims to gather the evidence on which to build those solutions. Early on, we identified the relationship between public funding and gender representation. In gender representation, particularly in organisations in receipt of that funding, as being a central interest. Public money is public, and as members of the public, it's vital for us to understand how that money is spent.
So what did we study? We decided to sample the top 10 Arts Council-funded organisations that either present or produce theatre. We have examined a number of key roles across all of their productions from a 10-year period from 2006 to 2015.
The team worked on a voluntary, part-time basis and faced considerable financial and time commitment constraints. The study only covers a small sample of organisations. However, within this, we wanted to provide an overview of the rich panorama of theatre in Ireland. The research includes organisations that differ in their function, so that produce or present theatre, in their structure, venues, companies and festivals, and focus, theatre or multidisciplinary. 4 festivals appeared in the original sample. They were Dublin Theatre Festival, Galway Arts Festival, Kilkenny Arts Festival and the Dublin Fringe Festival. Each festival has an enormous volume of productions, so given the constraints that we faced, we studied only the highest and lowest funded of these. Our study can only provide a fraction of the information we would like to have. Here are the sampled organisations.
Clear rules inform the gathering of data. We were guided by Sinéad Burke of Irish Theatre Institute, and we developed a methodology that was rigorous and traceable. We formed our own data set using digital resources before entering each company's archive, checking the data against the programmes or other information available, and then cross-checking that. We collected data on a number of key roles in each production produced by a company or presented at a venue over the 10-year period. The roles included director, author, cast, stage management, set, lighting, sound, and costume design. We will report only provisional figures on some of these today. The study considered all productions that were classed as professional theatre according to our broad definition. They had to be full productions, not readings. They had to be performed 5 or more times and lasting longer than 45 minutes. Productions in all languages for all target audiences were included.
We sourced information on 81% of the productions in the sample, which covered over 1,000 productions. We have not fully completed our study of the 2 companies as yet. Project Art Centre and Pan Pan Theatre. Though we believe we have collected most of the information necessary on these companies, we nevertheless recommend that the figures quoted be treated with caution. We will now see a gender breakdown of the averages for the categories of designers, cast, authors, and directors. Everyone will receive a copy of these findings on the way out, so don't worry about taking notes. The figures you will see are the numbers of females expressed as a percentage of the total.
Firstly, the designers. The data is an aggregate of information we gathered on 4 different design roles, so set, lighting, sound, and costume design. The graph shows the percentage of female representation across 4 roles for each of the studied companies. Of note here are the highest and lowest figures within the aggregated percentages. The lowest figure for female designers is just 23%, while the highest is 72%. We found that costume design is dominated by women, with 80% of the roles occupied by females, and that sound design is dominated by males, with 10% of the roles filled by women.
We also did a breakdown of casts across these organisations. There was a variation of a maximum of 12 percentage points between the companies here. The organisations with the lowest representation had just 37% and 38% of women in their casts. On the opposite end of the scale, 2 of the sample companies were just 1 percentage point away from gender parity. They had 49% of their cast female. It's important to note that the study does not make any distinction between roles, and so by this measure, a cast member with a small role is counted as equal to a central character. It should also be noted that we haven't studied pay levels or parity in earnings.
The roles of author and director are 2 of the most influential and authoritative roles in a theatre production. Waking the Feminists was triggered by the lack of female representation in these 2 categories. In this study, the data paints a diverging picture of how women fare in each role. To accommodate all types of authorship, we include performances that are devised, created by a group or ensemble, or where any kind of text is produced. As you can see, this graph on authors is stark. The highest percentage is shared by 2 companies and shows women authors at 39% of the total number of authors. The lowest is 33 percentage point lowers at just 6%. The initial figures show that women are struggling to assert their presence within this role. However, they fare significantly better in some organisations compared with others.
Next, the role of director. This graph shows greater variation than any of the others. The lowest percentages here are 0% and 6%. One of these organisations is PanPan, for whom we do not yet have complete data. It should be noted, in addition, that PanPan is a small company led by a male artistic director who generally directs their work. The highest averages here are 80% and 81%. Both of these companies are led by female artistic directors who, again, direct most of their work. This graph is complex, and we're going to refer back to it later in the presentation.
As we studied the data we gathered, a distinct pattern began to develop. We were always interested in the relation between levels of public funding and gender representation in organisations. So once we had calculated the percentages for each company, we grouped them according to funding levels. These are the numbers that emerge from that analysis. In this series of charts, we contrast the gender representation of the top 3 Arts Council-funded organisations. That's the Abbey, the Gate and Dublin Theatre Festival, with that of the remaining 7 organisations in the sample. You should note that the percentages for individual organisations within this may be a higher or lower percentage in each category than the figure that emerges when the 3 are grouped together.
First, the designers category. In the 7 organisations, 44% of the designers employed were female. This is shown on the inside ring. And in the top 3, 34% of the designers employed women, shown on the outside ring. This represents a 10 percentage point difference.
Moving to look at cast. In the 7 organisations, 46% of the cast were women. Again, this is on the inside ring. While in the top 3, 39% of actors were female, and this is shown on the outside ring.
And the authors. Looking at the category of authors, in the 7 organisations, 33% of these were women, while in the top 3, just 19% of authors were female. A female author looking to have her work staged in one of the top 3 funded organisations has a 14-point difference to surmount.
Finally, we return to the role of director. This chart shows how female directors have fared in all the sampled organisations over the 10-year period. As you will shortly see, in 2015, we approached the line that indicates 50%. This looks, at first glance, like parity, but it demands closer inspection.
So we'll just wait till we get to parity. Might be waiting. Okay, so when we apply the 3 versus the other 7 breakdown that we've used in the others to the overall percentage, we see a significant difference between the 2 categories. While the 7 companies combined are showing a figure close to parity, the top 3 companies are lagging 20 points behind. This might indicate that there is not a supply problem when it comes to female directors, but rather that it is harder for female directors to progress to the higher funded organisations.
Our final graph shows the aggregated percentages when all the categories mentioned are combined for each company. Finally, we're going to summarise our provisional key findings.
So as you can see, we found that there is a general, though slight, upward trend towards gender equality in most roles.
Some roles, such as costume and sound design, are clearly gendered.
Significantly, we discovered that women struggle to assert their presence in the role of author, though they fare significantly better in some organisations than in others.
To conclude, when we compared the averages across roles, we found that the top 3 funded organisations grouped together, which are again the Abbey, the Gate and Dublin Theatre Festival, had lower averages for female participation in all categories.
These are just the headline figures. If, as I imagine you are hungry for more, a more detailed report with key findings from this study will be published by Waking the Feminists in early 2016. 17.
I'm eager. To close, we would like to communicate our one thing more. As we worked through the archives of the companies, we found it difficult to source some materials, especially the companies in the independent sector. The materials we were looking at were primarily programmes, but we also consider flyers, other promotional resources, and anything we can.
So our message is this. If you are a woman and you write, direct, act, work backstage, whatever your role, make sure to record your contribution. Check that your name appears in the programme and on the promotional materials. Ensure that records are kept of your work.
Let the records stand so that you can be counted next time. Thanks for listening.
This is the only apology you will hear from a feminist today. We're running slightly over, so I hope you can bear with us. We've a couple of things more, because 1 year later, we all have a lot to say. 1 year later, 1,800 homeless women live here in Ireland. 1 year later, over 1,000 women live in direct provision here. Over 3,000 women here have had to travel abroad for an abortion. And the time to close the gender pay gap globally has widened to 170 years. 1 year later, I had wanted to talk of hope, but the outrage remains. Making theatre is a privilege, it's not life or death. But behind each of these numbers is a woman in a life or death situation. If we can't make room for the marginalised to share their own voices from our stages, then what the hell are we doing here? If any of you doubted the real-world consequences of permitting male characters such wide-ranging scope to do whatever they want and still be credible figures of power, while vastly restricting female characters' access to powerful identities, look at what just happened. That came from our culture. We shape our culture, and how we shape it has consequences. Women are central to the great events and issues of our time. Our place is not at the cultural periphery because inequality of voice compounds the inequality of our power. exclusion festers until it explodes. Listening to predominantly male narratives is not only delusional, it's dangerous. In failing half our talent, we fail our art, we fail our culture, and we fail our society. Attentive listening and inclusion of other voices is a powerful restorative. Equality is a luxury we cannot afford to defer. Equality is a muscle that improves with feminism, and exercising feminism daily strengthens every one of us. Getting in touch with my own dormant feminist muscle through Waking the Feminists has been an immense privilege and a transformative experience. Each of us working on the campaign will carry this learning into every area of our future endeavours. It will not be lost. To female artists, this year you have heard loud and clear. Your gender does not make you less capable of creating extraordinary theatre. Your voice is vital and we need it. The flaw is not in your talent, it is in our perception of it. Look at this. Just look at this. This is what collaborative feminist power looks like, and it is a joyous, playful, inclusive thing. To male artists, thank you for listening and thank you for your support, for recognising the value of Waking the Feminists in all our creative lives. I hope you understand that this movement is about expanding all our opportunities and talents, not diminishing anyone's. We welcome hearing more from you in this conversation because we all want the same thing, really, to live creative lives to our fullest potential. Now, the point of any public campaign of protest is to get a seat at the table, to rebalance the power. All year, week after week, those of us organising Waking the Feminists have been pulling up chairs to all sorts of tables. We have found ourselves at tables we never imagined we'd be sitting at. So that when you sit down to do your artistic work, you can do so in greater confidence that you will have a fair and equal chance that it will meet the audience it deserves. And with that opportunity comes responsibility. Women of the theatre, make your work with an urgency like never before. Take on this research as a creative challenge, not a fait accompli. Be more ambitious than ever. Equality can only be achieved with your full participation and creative curiosity. Be brave, be big, be rigorous. But as writer Danai Guraya says, get it done. The research shows us where we can improve. It's not about blame. It was never about blame. It shows none of us are immune to bias. Numbers are important, but they're not the whole story. Awareness and action need to work hand in hand. No one organisation can do this alone. Implementing widely initiatives like the Abbey's visionary guiding principles on gender equality will help. We all have an individual responsibility here, and there is an additional onus on our leaders to ensure the appropriate practices to support change are activated. It's not just the right thing to do, it's the law. Section 42 of the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission Act 2014 places a positive duty on public sector bodies to have regard to the need to eliminate discrimination, promote equality, and protect human rights in their daily work. This applies to all bodies financed, even partially, with public money. To all of you, and especially to you leaders of companies, I know through all our conversations this year that each of you believes passionately in equality in your hearts. Together, we can figure out with our heads how to put what's in our hearts on our stages. We are not defined by these statistics we have seen here today. Use them as a springboard, not a weight. The public phase of Waking the Feminists is drawing to a close. It has done its job as rocket fuel for this movement. But we all know there is more to be done. What comes next is slower and more deliberative, because true change takes time and collective, careful attention to be deeply rooted.
In order to manage the legacy project, we have set up a temporary non-profit company. Its two aims are to publish the research and establish a learning programme in gender equality. Later today, we are coming together with our colleagues in the theatre to continue the work. Last year, we asked you to stand with us. This year, we're inviting you to make gender equality a reality within 5 years. Today is our momentous opportunity for leadership. Each one of you decides how this story, how this history plays out. We have it within our collective power to be the first theatre community in the world to attain and sustain full gender equality. Imagine what that would look like. All inequality is an outrage. Rage out against it in determination without despair until there is nothing to be outraged about. In this chaotic global moment, let's open up, ignite all our stages with big, complex, messy conversations using all our talent, all our genders, all our diversity. Make our theatre a beacon for equity, not a bystander in a burning world. International Women's Day 2021 beckons us. Let's get it done.
Hi, I just want to say thanks so much. I'm really delighted to be part of this great event. And when I was asked to sing a song for it, one that came particularly to mind a few weeks back was a beautiful, thought-provoking song by Leonard Cohen called Anthem. So we're going to sing it for you now.
The birds, they sigh at the break of day. Start again, I heard them say, don't dwell on what has passed away, or what is yet to be. The wars will be fought again. The holy dove will be caught again. Bought and sold and bought again. The dove is never free. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. Well, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. We asked for signs, and the signs were sent. The birth betrayed, the marriage spent, the widowhood of every government. Signs for all to see. I can't take no more of that lawless crowd, while the killers in high places say their prayers out loud. Well, they summoned they summoned up a thundercloud, and they're gonna hear from me. You can add up the parts, but that won't make the sum. You can strike up the march on your little lonely drum. Every heart to love will come, but like a refugee. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. Well, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. Well, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. Well, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. Thank you.